the sound.
Down as the rolling sea.
I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on
Let us march on.
till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're going to take you to church later. Let's go.
We'll keep marching right until the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till that day comes.
Hey.
Let us march on
To victory.
till victory is won. Is won.
Wow, what a beautiful song. Hello, good morning. Welcome to my dear Brandeis community and all prospective families. We are so glad to have you here with us this morning, and it is an honor to introduce our Tefillah today on Black History Month. Black History Month takes place every February in the United States to celebrate the history, contributions, and achievements of African Americans to the United States. Although textbooks and other curricular materials are improving in their inclusion of underrepresented groups, the reality remains that Black history is still a largely neglected part of American history. The histories, stories, and voices of Black people should be centered, honored, and uplifted in school curricula every day. Ensuring the ongoing integration of Black history and experiences throughout all curriculum is crucial as educators continue to uplift every student and reinforce that Black lives matter every day. We learn about the history of slavery and about a few distinct people like Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King Jr., etc. But so many great Black artists, activists, engineers, thinkers, and other change makers are left out of the history books. That's part of what this month is about, and the hope is that this month extends to all year round, where Black history is part of American history. Black History Month was originally developed by Carter G. Woodson, known as the father of Black history, because he recognized that the American education system offered very little information about the accomplishments of African Americans. Woodson, whose parents were enslaved, was an author, historian, and the second African American to earn a PhD at Harvard University. In 1926, Woodson proposed taking a national week in February to showcase everything students learned about Black history throughout the school year. Woodson believed it was essential for young African Americans to understand and be proud of their heritage. Woodson sought to help African Americans rediscover a history which had been intentionally buried by white mainstream culture. His hope was to reinvigorate the self-esteem, sense of power, and hunger for justice of a long oppressed people. A second goal of his was to foster understanding between races with the belief that awareness about different races engenders respect. The week-long event occurred in the second week of February to honor the birthdays of Frederick Douglass, who was an abolitionist, meaning someone who wanted to end the practice of enslaving people, and former US President Abraham Lincoln, who led the United States during the Civil War, which was primarily fought over the enslavement of Black people in the country. Black History Month became official in 1976 when US President Gerald Ford extended the recognition to, quote, honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history, unquote. Black History Month has been celebrated in the United States every February since. Black History Month is a reminder to all of us to continue Carter G. Woodson's commitment to bring greater regard for the contributions of African Americans to this country, to understand and overcome a legacy of oppression and racism, and in so doing, to further racial harmony among us all. So in honor of Black History Month, we are dedicating this Tefillah to recognizing and celebrating the contributions and achievements of several Black leaders across different disciplines, from engineering to the arts, humanities to sports. We will be taking time in your classrooms and at home to discuss and celebrate these Black change makers and their contributions after we recognize them.
I'm telling y'all already.
But just like life. All right.
Air Jordan ready to take off.
Can I get an amen? And welcome to the very first National Oprah Winfrey Show!
Please join me in singing Modani. Modani lefanecha, melech chai v'kayam, shechezarta minishmati b'chemla v'chema. And now we move on to Matovu. Matovu, it's the morning. Matovu, bless us this morning. Oh, halecha, let us enter. Yaakov, our heritage. We are searching, will you show matzovu.
Hi, everybody. My name is Trish, and I'm so honored to be part of the committee bringing this to you today. And we've decided to spotlight some people. You just saw that video about the most searched, which are some of the most famous people in our culture who happen to be African American. To spotlight more people, we have decided on a few people that you may have already heard of, and maybe a few that you haven't. So we're going to do the same format as we did in our last Tefillah around this area, where we're going to present something to you for just a couple of minutes, and then we're going to let our classes talk about it. And then we're going to come back and maybe hear a couple of comments and move on. So Lisa, are we going to show our first slide? Yay. All right, so you see here that we're going to talk about change makers in Black history. And one thing to wonder immediately is, what is a change maker? Who makes change? How do you make change? What is change for the better? These people are all change makers. And here's our first slide. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Miss Amanda Gorman. And if you're in the 7th grade, you've already experienced her in my class, and maybe some other grades have too. She is, of course, the 22-year-old, only 22 years old, youngest inaugural poet ever to speak at the presidential inauguration. And she wrote a poem called The Hill We Climb. And you may have seen her do that at the inauguration. She also spoke at the Super Bowl, if you are indulging in the Super Bowl, if you did that in the last couple of weeks. She spoke then as well, and this is pretty much unheard of to have poetry at a Super Bowl. We don't think of the arts and sports mixing very much. But one of the things I wanted to point out to you about her is that she overcame a speech impediment using poetry and rap music from Hamilton, one of many people's favorite musicals. And you might hear that in her lyrics. She graduated from Harvard in 2020, and I wanted to give you a taste of her words. I can't do it like she does, but listen for her words. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and changes our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we left. Every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the golden hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it. If only we're brave enough to be it. The other person here in our slide is Maya Angelou, who lived to 86 years old. And she was a poet and an award-winning author and an activist for many, many years. You see, she was born in 1928. She also had a speech impediment or difficulty in her life, and she used poetry. She memorized poetry silently. There was a period of 5 years where she decided not to speak because of something that happened to her, and she said, I will not speak again. My voice causes trouble. But during that time, she memorized, she thought, she felt words in her heart and her soul, and she learned and chose to speak again. She was also San Francisco's first African-American female cable car conductor, which is nice. And her words go a little like this. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I'll rise. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Now, as I turn it back to the classrooms, you'll only have a few minutes to reflect on this. And one thing I wanted to point out, being a lover of words and a teacher of English and a reciter of poetry, they both said, I will rise. And they said it many, many times. What's the impact of this? What is the impact of having words out in the air, speaking, listening, hearing, going into our souls? What change does that make? All right, so I will turn it back to the classrooms. We have put the Padlet in the chat for the classroom teachers to access and to be able to type words in. Lisa, is there a clock that we're going to have?
Yes, we're going to have a 4-minute timer that'll start in a moment. Also, for anybody who is at home, you can write comments in the Padlet that I just linked in the chat. Make sure you write it as a comment and not clicking the plus underneath the person that you're discussing. So have fun talking it out for 4 minutes.
Please join me in singing an excerpt from Psalm 150, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Come on, Shama, say hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Come on, Shama, say hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And together we rise for our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu. Adonai Amevorah Baruch
Hello, everyone. Today, it is my honor to introduce two of the many Black Americans that have revolutionized the STEM and business fields of our country and the larger world. Oprah Winfrey continues to be a billionaire media mogul, the first, actually, first female African-American woman, as well as a force for positive social change and humanitarian efforts in our world. You may have heard of her talk show that was on TV for 25 years, her TV network that is operating today, or her girls' school in Africa. Our other famous person, sadly, Katherine Johnson, passed away about a year ago today. You may have heard about her from the book or movie Hidden Figures. In 1969, her mathematical genius made it possible for the Apollo 11 mission to safely navigate to, land, and walk on the moon for the first time in human history. Both of these women accomplished incredible achievements amidst widespread social injustice, direct experiences with systemic racism blocking their path, and the continued fight for racial equality. Take some time now to read more about and discuss these Black pioneers with your class. How did these change makers impact social justice and racial equality?
Please join me in singing Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Together we chant the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uvshochbecha uvekumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha. And now we sing the Micha Mocha. Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh, Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai, Micha Mocha nedar ba'kodesh.
Page 56, please rise. Nala Amud Bevakasha Lifnot Lamud 56. Adonai Sefata Tiftachu V'Yagita Ilatecha. Oh Lord, open up my lips and my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh Hakol V'Zocher Hasei Hakol B'Imot U'Mevi Go'el Livnei B'nehem L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham V'Chutz Tzara Atah Gibor Le'lo Adonai Mechayim Etim Atah Rav Le'Yoshiach Mashich HaRuach U'Mori HaGashem Mechachel Chaim B'Chesed Mechayim Etim B'Rachamim Rabim Samech Noflim B'Rofech Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mechayem Emunato L'Shelei Afar Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot U'Mido Melach Melech Mamit U'Mechayem U'Matzmiach Yeshua V'Neman Atah L'Chayot Meitim Baruch atah Adonai V'Chayei HaMeitim Kadosh 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 Adonai Tzvaot Melech Haaretz Kevodo Baruch Kevod Adonai Mikomo Yimloch Adonai Le'olam El Ha'ich Zion Dor V'Dor Hallelujah.
Hello, I'm Lisa Roberts. I'm the music teacher here, and I have the honor of sharing with you our final and third category, which is huge. It's pop culture, which includes sports, music, dance, theater, everything else, basically. And you know, as a music teacher, I could talk forever about Black culture in America and its influence on music, but we actually wanted to share with you today some other people that you might not know as much about. Because I'm sure that you could list so many famous Black Americans in sports and in music. But do you know a little bit about these people? The first we're going to share with you is Muhammad Ali, who you may have heard of before as a famous boxer. But did you know that because of his conversion to Islam, he decided to not go to war when he was drafted in the Vietnam War. And he was very strongly against the war, even though that meant that he lost his boxing titles. They were taken away from him because of his stance on the war. So activism became a big part of his life after that, and being anti-war and pro-peace. Another person we want to tell you about that you may not have heard of is a really famous choreographer. His name is Alvin Ailey, and he is known for founding his own dance company called the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. He brought the connection of ballet and classically trained dancers, which was usually thought of as something more white or not for certain groups of people. And he brought it to the Black experience. He included Black culture. He included activism and social justice issues in the dances that he created. And he also included modern Black music. So I want you to think about these and discuss them with your class. What's impacted these people have on their fields and on the world, and what impacted other famous people in pop culture, like in music and in dance and in sports and in theater, have on our culture. How did they increase social justice and racial equity? So you can talk about this topic for 4 minutes and add your thoughts to the Padlet in the chat.
Please join me in singing O Say Shalom. O say Shalom. And together we rise and end our tefillah with the Israeli national anthem, Hatikvah.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And thank you to the rest of my Jedi team for putting on this great Tefillah. My name is Jack Parnell. For those who don't know me, I'm a 4th grade TA and an alumni from Brandeis. I graduated 10 years ago, back in 2011. As we've seen today from the countless contributions these Black individuals have made to expand our world culture, to advance our technology, to improve our communities, Black history is all of our history. It is American history. However, this statement, although seemingly obvious, is not what we as Americans have told ourselves for many years. This may be an uncomfortable truth, and that's okay. I would urge all of us to sit with that discomfort, to question it. Why has it taken so long for us to recognize and celebrate the great successes and cultural contributions of our Black community members? Why are there so many important Black historical figures that we haven't studied? Can we celebrate and uplift Black history while still acknowledging the fact that this hasn't always been our practice? These are the questions that I sit with as I learn with you all today. What's clear to me is that for every famous and culturally impactful Black individual that we learn about, there are dozens of others whose story has yet to be told. So moving forward, I'm eager to learn and celebrate more Black history with you all. We do not need to stop at the end of this month. We need to ask ourselves how we can continue to learn Black history, and also how we can be critical of historical narratives that have so frequently excluded important Black figures and movements. Amanda Gorman's powerful poetry at the recent inauguration highlights the fact that Black history is still being made. So we have lots more to learn about moving forward. We should not just look to the past when discussing the power and significance of Black history, but also to the future, which is why I feel so grateful to hold this space with you all today. Thank you, and happy Black History Month.
Hi, everyone. The Student Council is happy to announce a new collaboration with the Parent Association, 30 Days of Random Acts of Kindness.
For the next 30 days, do small acts of kindness to people in our community, whether that be writing a small note to your teacher, complimenting a friend, or helping someone out with their work.
We have already and will continue sending small pieces of foil that you can write your acts of kindness on, and we will be hanging them each on a tree in front.
By the end of the 30 days, we are hoping to have a tree glittering with all our acts of kindness in front of our school.
We can't wait to see all of your acts of kindness.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you to the Jedi team. They worked so hard to put this tefillah together, and we're just at the beginning of a long journey together as a school. So please continue to work on the Padlet this month and next month until the end of the year to add more. And I promise you that we're going to bring more and more tefillot around social justice to our school, because this is just the beginning. So I want to say thank you to Sasha and Trish and Jack and Kalia, Lisa and Stephanie. You are such a great team to work with. Next week, Purim, right? Purim, can you believe it? Jokes, we need jokes. Please send us jokes. We're gonna have 2 community tefillot next week, on Thursday and on Friday. Don't forget your costume. And happy birthday, Melanie in 5th grade. Mazal tov motek. Have a great day. Shabbat shalom. Bye.
But don't leave yet, because I want to tell you about what's going to be on our final slide. We, in 6th grade this year, have been working on talking about Black culture and how that's influenced American music. We're talking about the past to the present, connecting everything from West African drumming to hip hop. So when Amanda Gorman read her poem on Inauguration Day, I knew that I had to incorporate that in our 6th grade class. So what we did is we remixed. We talked about looping and sampling, and we sampled her poem and added some loops underneath, and they were really cool, so I want to share them with you. So this example that you're going to hear is from one of our 6th graders, Trip Clifton. So stick around to listen. Here it is. See you next time.
never-ending shade. The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. In the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. In the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. In the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken.